kita mana tahu sih Indonesia bakal jadi begini. I bet the idea of election nanti will be tokenized someone. Ada scam itu pasti gitu kan. Nama juga cycle dan pasti hampir semuanya scam. Jadi kita lihat juga sih the nature of startup company, they have to evolve, they have to catch up with the rest. Kalau nggak Google hari ini masih search engine, right? Most of our portfolio hari ini itu kalau yang nggak move to Web3 jelas-jelas pasti ketinggalan. So either you embrace it now atau at least experimented with it, or got let up by time. To me, investing in crypto is like investing in a project. There's no such thing as get rich quick. Itu schemes, itu scam, itu nggak mungkin lah, nggak ada. The CBDC pasti akan terjadi gitu ya, meskipun Trump was so against it. In order Web3 to rise, Web2 has to die.
When do you think that will happen?
Soon.
Hai semua, jadi hari ini kita kedatangan tamu yang sangat spesial, Niko Wijaya. Bagi yang udah tahu, udah pada tahu lah ya. Kalau gue baru di sini nih, biasanya kan Ajeng. Jadi mungkin kalau misalnya pada nanya mana nih Ajeng, nggak tahu ya. Where's Ajeng?
Where's Ajeng?
Tapi hari ini karena tamunya spesial, jadi hostnya juga spesial dari Teresa Learns.
Teresa Learns.
Jadi welcome back to podcast Zeller. Thank you banget nih waktunya.
Thank you for having
banget udah datang di sini. Kita bakal ngobrol seru-seru aja, tapi ngobrol santai juga. Mungkin sebelum mulai boleh dong diceritain ke audience kita, who are you? Do an introduction and what's your background?
I don't know who I am anymore.
You don't know who you are.
Apa ya? So well, people bilang biasanya I'm a like tech guy.
Okay.
Just a tech
That's
guy.
very general. Terlalu general.
Tech nerd, tech geek, but tapi I have a career in venture capital for a while.
Yeah.
15 years. Percaya apa enggak? Not because I love money, but I love tech.
Okay.
Right.
But it comes with money.
I mean, money is the gamification of it, right? It has to be. In everything that we do, kelihatannya the form of gamification yang paling itu adalah, I think, fiat.
Berarti langsung ya.
Sekarang ini fiat dulu, ya kan? Sekarang ini fiat dulu. It's okay, fiat dulu. So I started my career early in Silicon Valley when I was a young man, fresh graduate. Terus I studied in Oregon, and then I moved to the Bay Area just because I saw one I think movie made for TV judulnya The Pirates of Silicon Valley.
Okay.
Right. So it was about the young Steve Jobs and the young Bill Gates, which is they are competing for the dominance in tech. Gitu. So I was fascinated by it, right? So I knew right away I really want to be these guys. Nggak mau jadi
biasa-biasa
these
aja.
guys, right?
Okay.
Kayak gitu. So I moved there. I moved to the Bay Area, and I tried to get in first. Try to get into the space, regardless what the job is, right? Ada orang yang mungkin baru lulus kuliah tuh pengennya jadi, I aspire to be an associate di, one consulting firms, atau I want to be, I aspire to be VP dan yang lain-lain. I just wanted to go there and observe.
Jadi pekerjaan pertama dulu pas masuk nih ke Silicon Valley tuh
when I was
ngapain?
in my 20s, in my early 20s. Data entry, percaya apa enggak?
Data entry di Silicon Valley.
Yeah,
wow.
data entry for Embark.com. I still remember the company name. So, because my work visa is only temporary, jadi dari sana terus pindah-pindah gitu kan. But sampai content writer juga pernah buat Palo Alto Software kalau nggak salah.
Palu Gada tapi di Silicon Valley gitu.
Yeah. But Silicon Valley is all about Palu Gada, right?
Yes.
Silicon Valley is all about it's all about the culture itself. Dan my second major is anthropology, so jadi gue tertarik banget sih ngeliat gituan. And I think one thing yang kind of I still remember, after more than 20 years, inget tuh kayak, I think most of my friends like going into boardroom tuh kayak seneng banget to have a board meeting tuh, mereka kayak I got called into a board meeting, right?
Okay.
But in our case hari itu we have a town hall meeting, right? We have a town hall meeting in the Golden Gate Park misalnya, and we have the poster of the founders gitu. Rather than we have like, of course we are doing serious things, tapi we have the poster of the founders seperti it's probably like something seperti he can save all of us, something like that, right? So I thought it was a cult thing to begin with, right? So I was fascinated by it, and I knew it right away. I really want to be in this space. Mau itu di Silicon Valley, mau itu di but Jakarta hari itu baru memulai, gitu, baru about to start. Indonesia was about to start. We have all the ingredients. I think back in the 2010s atau prior to that too, kita ada beberapa community yang kind of resembling what happened in Silicon Valley back in the day. I'm not gonna say names, tapi this founder of a now unicorn company, misalnya. I mean, we had that kind of similar discussions. So I was like really excited to be part of it di Indonesia since 2010.
Makanya waktu itu apakah ekspertis yang dibawa dari Silicon Valley itu dibawa ke Indonesia, because Indonesia waktu itu emas nih, mungkin lebih ke opportunity banget dan masih muda banget dan bisa direplikasi dari apa yang lo lihat di Silicon Valley.
Yeah, not the expertise, tapi lebih ke the experience. I mean the experience not necessarily meaning work experience, tapi the way you perceive, a new industry about to emerge, and the excitements combined with the hopelessness, whatever it is yang ada hari itu kan. I mean hari itu 2010 kita mana tahu sih Indonesia bakal jadi begini gitu kan, atau jadi begini lagi sekarang gitu. So I guess hari itu banyak banget yang bukan uncertainties tapi lebih kepada we are really excited to be part of the first foundation of the Web 2 lah gitu. Kalau kita bicara di sini kan the Web 2 ya. The Web 2 kan, the Web 2. Kita miss Web 1 lah basically, right? Tapi Web 1 di Amerika pun juga cuma sebentar gitu kan. So the hari itu if you remember ada majalah Wired tahun 2010 tuh bilang the death of Web 1, dan setelah itu terus kayak long live Web 2 hari itu. And they were talking about Twitter, they were talking about this P2P platform, they were talking about peer-to-peer network, blah blah blah, and how everything is becoming like mobile platform, dan everything is connected, then sharing economy kalau hari itu, I don't know if you're old enough to remember to know that thing. Sharing economy, sharing platform itu kayak menarik banget gitu kan. Jadi so it was like sort of a utopian type of idea gitu kan, that you don't need a car. And you can ride sharing with someone. You don't need you don't need a house misalnya. You can just rent from someone gitu kan. So it was quite revolutionary, dan I kind of like that idea gitu. That kind of remind me of my early age gitu kan. Ada di sini lagi gitu. Dan for some time I was waiting. I think we are all waiting for the next what's the next big thing gitu coming in tech gitu kan.
Benar.
Maybe we can elaborate on that later on in the segment, right?
Ngomongin the next big thing juga. I mean you as an investor pasti selalu berpas-pasan nih dengan what is the next big thing, dan juga cari startup yang bisa jadi the next big thing. Boleh diceritain nggak mungkin awalnya itu gimana caranya dari yang tadinya dari pekerjaan biasa di Silicon Valley, and then tiba-tiba nih jadi ke investor dan jadi Nico yang sekarang gitu.
Okay. Good, that's a good thing. Actually, I need to go back lagi. Pekerjaan biasa itu cuma sebentar sih. Setelah itu I join a boutique investment firm juga di sana. So I kind of know how to assess companies misalnya, dan kind of to feel is this going to be a big thing misalnya, ya kan. Jadi gitu-gituan tuh makin lama kan makin kayak diasah ya, atau whatever it is. So I returned to Indonesia around 2005 gitu, then waiting for the revolution to happen. Basically. So back then it was just probably small community there and here. Daily Social was Daily Social was one of them. Ada jadi tuh si masih blog hari itu. So they gather a lot of tech enthusiasts, tech geeks like me, right? Untuk kayak ngobrolin what's the coming of Web2 di Indonesia. So and then I start angeling, obviously, right?
Okay.
I start to angel here and there, and the angel part is quite interesting to me.
Kenapa tuh?
Because you can not only interact with the founders, but tapi ngeliat dalamnya. Dan yang paling menarik itu adalah talking about Runway, right? Talking about Runway happening since I was still in Silicon Valley. Tadi yang poster yang He Can Save All of Us itu talking about runways, right?
Yeah.
jadi so I'm not I wasn't unfamiliar with the idea that every startup need to fundraise, that every startup need to sustain until the next fundraising stage. Dan every fundraising stage itu getting more difficult, right? I mean, getting angel investors, seed investors, Series A, B itu pretty much bisa lah, especially in the era of cheap money. Kalau zaman itu kita ada cheap money di dunia. Tapi kalau udah sampai ke yang later stage itu susah banget. That I know for sure. Some of my friends yang pernah racing sampai series D or E itu quite stressful banget sih.
Okay.
Very stressful, dan I was part of the early investors yang apa ya? Yang nggak ikut stres tapi ikut ngerasain.
Waktu itu masih angel atau udah?
Masih angel. I started my fund tahun 2010 sebenarnya.
Okay.
2010 akhirnya ada proper fund, gitu kan. Ada proper fund. We started 5 million. Dan it was a very interesting experience as well. This is pre-MDI, right? And in 2014 we were invited by Telkom Indonesia to talk about what is the future of venture capital in the setting of state-owned corporations. So from what we learned, kita bikinlah kayak a thesis gitu that can perhaps build the first foundation of a corporate venture capital in Indonesia, dan itu namanya MDI.
Okay.
So we officially launched in 2015.
Yeah.
We have thesis yang pastinya membawa yang lama yang bagus, dan yang jelek kita revise semuanya, ya kan? Sampai BRI Ventures pun sama. Jadi yang kita pelajari nih semuanya yang bagus kita ambil, yang jelek kita coba revise. So if I misalnya jump into another venture fund hari ini, so of course I will bring those 15 years of experience ke sini gitu kan. Dan kali ini it's kind of different. I can feel it. Maybe I jump ahead with Web3 gitu ya. But there's something about
Web3
this movement yang membuat gue itu kayak back in 2010 again.
Okay, so it's the euphoria mungkin ya, euphoria dan early adopter.
Yeah.
Apakah seperti itu?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the euphoria can be also in the form of AI dan yang lain-lain.
Yes.
But I'm not really like believing in that, right?
Okay.
I think AI will be like a bubble lah. And, udah kelihatan kok gitu. Maksudnya dengan this Nvidia sekarang udah mulai normalizing, dan with all the softwares yang I don't know, somehow it's too good to be true, right? But I shouldn't have said that, right? By the way, mungkin ada sektor yang lain juga. I think ESG will be, will play a big part of it di dalam sektor alternative investment kayak venture capital atau private equity and so on. But something about RWA, right? Something about Web3, something about this ini yang menurut I personally believe that everything should be more democratized with but only through tokenization that everything should be democratized, right? Atau kayak gitulah. Kita belum sampai sana lah.
Kenapa gue pengen bahas itu juga sih. I mean, I think what you're saying, AI as a bubble is interesting karena itu lumayan banyak dari ada beberapa yang memang AI will last, tapi ada juga yang bilang, apalagi dari fellow investor juga sih, AI is a bubble gitu. Ujung-ujungnya kan siapa nih yang bakal last long, siapa nih yang bakal stick gitu ya. Tapi on the contrary, ada yang bilang juga blockchain is a bubble, Web3 is a bubble. Apalagi crypto, there's a cycle to it. What's your stance on that?
Crypto pasti ada cycle, ya kan? I don't know about you, but I only started like crypto, like really paying attention to it kayak 2020 sih. Although
Lumayan awal sih itu.
Itu lumayan awal ya. But I have like a lot of friends yang even as 2016, 2015, mereka billionaire sekarang, by the way. I should have like listened to them, right? Now they don't want to listen to me anymore. So they came to my office, I think 2014, 2015, when I was in MDI, and talk about crypto. They talk about token, blah blah blah. I don't know. I just didn't have maybe an energy to kind of wrap my head around it, right? Jadi cuma bilang okay, it's good, right? Jadi ada this one guy, I shouldn't name, tapi dia bilang, Bitcoin will be the future, and I said, I don't think so. Atau maybe mungkin lebih yes or no gitu kan, too early. Dan hari itu I still remember that Bitcoin itu masih sekitar what 20 bucks, 50 bucks, right?
Okay.
Should have listened to him, right? If I listen to you, probably not gonna be here anymore, right?
Not gonna be here.
Enggak lah.
Enggak di Indonesia ya?
Enggak di Indonesia, enggak di mana-mana. Enggak di mana-mana juga. So this guy is a very interesting guy. He probably owned one of the biggest exchange di Indonesia sekarang. But back then it was like kita belum tahu aja gitu mau diapain sih kira-kira. So tapi kan so I guess everything connected in like the right time. So 2020 I jump into it. And I lost a lot pasti, ya kan, especially during the crash of 2022.
Trade. You trade and you lost.
No, I don't trade. Jadi I don't really believe in trade. Well, not really believe in trading. I don't get trading, right? I don't get trading for a living. Itu menurut gua apa ya? I don't know. It's kind of skill yang kelihatannya nggak terlalu menarik buat gue personally. Gitu kan? But to me, investing in crypto is like investing in a project. You get the fractions of that particular project. So, like me, like doing angeling, probably if I'm doing like investment in crypto, itu seperti I'm doing angeling in angel investment in that particular project. Misalnya,
I see.
Misalnya XRP talking about the apa tuh? The digital remittance of money, then if I believe in that, then I'll probably participate in the project, right? Ada lagi lah yang lain-lain yang menarik gitu seperti NFT. It's like a project, right? So it's not really about kayak main saham gitu loh, atau bukan main saham, sorry. Apa sih kayak I don't know what do you do? kayak lo beli lotre gitu ya. Ini tuh selalu menang banyak gitu. Dan I think I should emphasis di podcast ini ya. Kalau nggak ada, there's no such thing as apa tuh? Get rich quick. Itu schemes, itu scam, itu nggak mungkin lah, nggak ada. I mean,
tapi biasanya itu yang kalau kripto, apalagi kripto yang benar-benar mereka risk profile-nya tinggi ya. Itu biasanya mikirnya get rich quick tuh. Iya. So you're not part of that.
No, enggak. Jadi menurut me personally, kenapa mau get rich quick? Nggak seru kan?
Nggak seru.
Get rich harus lama deh gitu kan, harus dibangun gitu.
Suka prosesnya ya berarti ya?
Yeah, I enjoy the process, dan to me everything is not the end justify the means, tapi but I guess the means itu buat gue semuanya is a journey rather than the destination. Kita mau ngapain sih setelah itu gitu. So it's nggak seru lah.
Mau balik lagi dong ke mungkin balik lagi ke awal investment ya di MDI, terus sekarang di BVI obviously. Tadi you also mention a lot about investing in crypto, investing in crypto in general, just to be part of that projects ya. Jadi istilahnya seperti angel investing. Nah, itu kira-kira tuh di-reflect gak sih di investment style or investment portfolio yang ada mungkin dulu di MDI atau sekarang di BVI?
The thesis of investment, right?
In Web3 or crypto in general?
Oh, kalau itu belum. Kita belum jump into ke sana sama sekali.
Boleh diceritain nggak kenapa?
Simple, because kita kalau misalnya di MDI, BVI, both are corporate, right?
Yes.
With corporate pasti ada mitigation of risk yang kita perlu assess. High risk, high return will not be our cup of tea lah. Seperti investor yang lebih agnostic gitu kan. Dan our thesis itu harus sejalan juga dengan the holding company that we work with. And by the end of the day, our investment tuh should reflect the synergy yang dibangun gitu kan. Dan there hasn't been any case with crypto atau blockchain atau token with these guys, at least tahun lalu ya gitu. Although sekarang kalau kita lihat udah ada beberapa use case, right? Seperti this company called D3, I don't know if you know these guys, right? They are doing a lot of RWA thing with a lot of many corporates. Dan itu mungkin one of the way to kind of educate the corporations gitu to adapt with the rest of the world, right? Setelah BlackRock announced that what $10 trillion tokenization funds, karena semua dunia mulai bergerak kan, because we tend to follow the money. And I guess every investors in the world juga prepare themselves for that, right?
Okay.
For that news coming out.
Jadi apakah entry point-nya in this case apakah bakal leaning more towards RWA?
I believe so. Kayak gini ya. Kan kalau kita lihat seperti ini, gimana ya? This is gonna be like agak panjang sedikit ya, nggak apa-apa ya?
Nggak apa-apa dong.
Okay. Kalau kita lihat di Indonesia ya, startup tuh yang jadi itu, it's not the type of startup like the US, right? US kan lebih ke Meta, Google, all these guys yang probably everything itu has anything to do with how many eyeballs yang di capture dengan all this data, right? Kalau kita lihat Indonesia itu sejak awal, I think we are more similar to India dan China, di mana everything is the underlying itu transactions, right? Whether it's e-commerce, on demand, whatever it is. Dan most of the startups yang very successful itu can capture that need, ya kan? That need tuh berarti gini, e-commerce lah kita lihat, nggak usah sebut nama siapa. But e-commerce tuh solve a lot of problems, right?
Yeah.
Solve a lot of problems not in the customer side, tapi lebih ke merchant side. These small merchants dan yang lain, they are empowered by it.
Yeah.
They are empowered by the ecosystem yang dibangun oleh si e-commerce player ini. Mulai dari a platform to reach out to larger audience. Awal-awal ingat gak sih, the logistics nggak terlalu sempurna, tapi lama-lama makin jalan gitu. Terus paymentnya ada, and then there's also a way to borrow money to expand the inventory atau whatnot. Terus kita lihat lagi di on demand, kita lihat ride hailing lah. Gitu. Ride hailing ini sebenarnya juga sama, mirip-mirip gitu, di mana Indonesia atau many developing countries itu ada informal workers, right?
Yeah.
These informal workers ini kan nggak pernah dapat kayak formalitas dalam pekerjaannya, so they can't borrow money, right? Atau malah sebelumnya they can't reach out to customers yang di luar dari areanya dia. So I think the ride hailing on demand itu kind of provide a solution for that, right? Jadi si ojek driver atau anyone can utilize their assets, right? Asetnya itu mungkin mobil, mungkin motor, mungkin truck, mungkin apa gitu. Tapi yang paling penting, they utilize their idle times yang biasanya mungkin nongkrong nungguin, tapi sekarang dengan adanya app ini, they can go to work instantly. So I guess in Indonesia atau any developing countries, the idea to maximize the underutilized resources that we have, mau itu time, mau itu barang, mau itu apapun juga, ada a lot of problems yang istilahnya, yang surrounding this this problem with urbanizations, the problem with yang lain-lain. pekerjaan lah gitu kan. So RWA comes in, right? Itu kind of give a narrative yang I think is kind of give you a solution to kind of own something yang bisa yield an income for you. Ya kan? Kayak I think the idea of BlackRock RWA token is that everything can be fractionalized tadi. Anyone can own anything around the world 24/7. Misalnya maybe in the near future I really wanna own misalnya a winery di Napa Valley misalnya, something that I always dream of, right? Terus and this winery is not a public company, right? But in order for me to own that, berarti si winery ini secara produktivitas dan sebagainya mungkin di offer dalam bentuk token gitu loh. And for anyone like me in Indonesia atau di some country in Africa sana can own a fraction of it, right? So every time dia produksi, every time dia jualan, I get the yield out of it, right?
Yeah.
So I guess that's a perfect world without involving any institutions to kind of becoming the intermediaries between buyer and seller, between the public and the commerce gitu. So I guess this narrative tuh yang nggak perlu banyak kayak not with AI lah, with AI dan any other things, right? It kind of require a lot of work, right? Kind of require a lot of work to make it happen. Bikin Silicon Valley versi Indonesia lah atau apapun juga, it take a lot of work. But RWA, it's just it's just a technology udah available, dan teknologi always been enabler. Jadi e-commerce kita kan nggak lihat any fancy teknologi yang ada di sana. Teknologi becoming an enabler for people to interact, to transact dan yang sebagainya. RWA also I think possess the same characteristics with it. Ada banyak problem, ada quote unquote platform gitu kan ya kan. Ada quote unquote lagi terus you don't have to do anything about it, right? So kalau nggak salah yang gue dengar juga dari RWA trend ini yang bergerak adalah RWA funds, right? Mulai ini ada gitu institutions yang mungkin bisa membawa some of the world to be tokenized misalnya. So I guess that's a very interesting movement around it. Kalau kita lihat gini deh, SaaS also di Indonesia tuh juga dari dulu udah ada gitu kan, atau any other sector selain dari apa yang tadi kita ceritain. Dan some of them are really good company loh, by the way. I'm not gonna say siapa, tapi I guess ada this SaaS company yang I admire. They can solve a lot of things, especially with small businesses sebagainya. This company kalau di US gitu, ini mungkin valued at 100 billion. This company kalau di US, tapi karena dia di Indonesia, dia nggak segitu gitu. Because the ticket size, the market size is pretty small.
Yes.
Buat this company to kind of catapult itself to become a unicorn company misalnya, kayak gitu.
Jadi do you see like mungkin tadi bahas lagi ke RWA tapi untuk funds ya, tokenisasi funds. Do you see this being or becoming implemented di Indonesia within the short time?
Yeah, it's happening now actually, right? It's happening now. If you see that company that I mentioned to you, talking about tokenizing mortgage of a bank misalnya, there probably ada some funds out there yang kind of interested to look at the type of the type of the yield yang mereka offer. So I guess it's happening, and it will be happening a lot in the near future harusnya.
Okay. And that also goes bukan cuman fundsnya doang ya, tapi project-project yang memang tokenisasi dan fokusnya lebih ke RWA.
Yeah.
Apakah itu aja yang you believe that will break through? Mungkin dari Web 2 orang-orang nih entry point-nya lewat tokenisasi baru mulai ngerti Web 3, atau mungkin menurut lo apa ada unsur-unsur lain nih
Kalau orang kita sih ngerti Web3 sih dari kripto ya harusnya ya.
Ya,
banyak
biasa dari kripto.
banyak itu tuh, banyak yang jualan juga kan. Unfortunately sih. I don't kayak gini lah, kayak I don't think people will understand the e-commerce service atau the on-demand service sampai ke dalamnya deh. Orang taunya cuma jual beli ya. I have services, you have money, let's meet. Tapi it's much more complex than that, right? It's actually building something of an organism sekarang. Yang mungkin it's becoming like apa tuh? Perhaps a solution buat the whole nation to address this unemployment, to address redistributions misalnya. So I guess people with a lot of resources will know how to utilize this tokenizations of things. Dan maybe membuat Indonesia very interesting to kind of participate in what Indonesia is doing. This project, that project can be fractionalized and owned by people.
Okay.
I think.
What do you think? Mungkin di Indonesia itu kalau misalnya ngomongin crypto Web3 itu tuh masih sangat separate banget dengan Web2 sebenarnya. What do you think will be, that wall breaker ya, yang bakal benar-benar nge-shift nih orang-orang yang tadinya di Web2 sampai ke Web3 atau mungkin dan nggak kelihatan gitu, dan tiba-tiba semuanya ini blockchain powered. Karena balik lagi gini, you have an experience 2010 di Silicon Valley ya, and you have that experience where Indonesia ini masih emas banget nih, masih banyak opportunity, semuanya masih di-build, and benar-benar dari Web 1 ke Web 2 gitu. Bahkan Web 1 juga belum terlalu ngerasain, langsung ke the rise of Web 2. Nah, how do you see that, dan biasanya tuh apa aja sih yang bikin lo bisa merasa, oh ini tuh kita akan mulai nih ke industri itu, atau ini kita akan mulai nih adopsi ke Web 3?
Let's say seperti ini, let's say in the crypto space, right? Especially in the meme space, right? The meme is very interesting karena I think the kid in Papua New Guinea misalnya have the same access to information lewat X misalnya, and the same access to procure the memes with another kid that live in LA misalnya, atau in Paris atau di mana gitu. These guys got the same amount of misalnya money, right? Meaning kid ini 15 tahunan kali 16 tahunan mungkin. When if they go into stock market, they will be required to show their IDs, right? Dan nggak bisa. But exchange juga nggak bisa sih. Tapi space ini mungkin space di wallet ya. Space di wallet yang do not require KYC. So let's say if the kid in Papua New Guinea put $100 in one meme, dan tiba-tiba meme itu jadi gitu ya. So this kid actually have the same competitiveness with the kid in the developed countries to earn money, right? To whether it ditukar ke fiat atau balik ke Bitcoin atau whatever it is. But that is to me is something else.
Okay.
It's rather universal bahkan.
So access to payment, access to
wallet,
access to wallet,
yeah. and the procurement itself of that particular coins.
Okay.
Yeah. Dan ada tuh beritanya ada kan itu kan.
Betul.
Kalau nggak salah ada there's one in the news kalau nggak salah. I think that ini kalau nggak salah koin yang bentuknya kodok atau apa gitu.
Koin bentuk kodok, sebutin aja.
banyak
yang kodoknya.
Jadi kalau nggak salah ada anak yang di mana gitu, dan I think ada anak yang dari Middle America kali. Middle America itu mungkin di daerah-daerah kayak Louisiana atau apa, tiba-tiba masuk ke sini dan the next day bukan next day lah, kayak few months later kayak oh wow gitu, and the same kid in Papua New Guinea misalnya access the same thing gitu kan. Then that's something else.
Okay.
Never seen before,
Okay.
in my life. You can win a lottery, right? Tapi even lottery juga what is the most fair lottery, US atau Europe? Nggak tahu, tapi kita nggak tahu kan.
It is never fair.
It's never fair, right? Jadi kita datang ke like Circle K gitu kalau di US gitu ya, and then you kayak gosok-gosok gitu kan.
Yeah.
Ya kan? So that is equal chance buat semua orang gitu kan, tuh untuk dapetin that apa tuh Powerball atau apapun juga. But tapi ini kan beda lagi nih, dan this is not like judi ya maksudnya. Because this is like wallet, right? I don't know. Itu satu dulu deh. Banyak banget yang lain.
Apa tuh yang lain?
Demokratisasi dari properti, demokratisasi dari surat hutang atau whatever.
Yeah.
Any productive resources that you have gitu bisa lo jual dan bisa lo actually you can take the benefit out of it.
Jadi goalnya adalah yang lo percaya itu sebenarnya lebih ke desentralisasi dan demokratisasi dari semua resources yang kita punya gitu ya, yang accessible untuk semuanya.
Iya.
Yeah.
Iya kan?
Dan itu apakah mungkin is that what you're looking for juga in your?
I gini deh. I was like I believe 100% in ride sharing hari itu, ya kan? And then everything yang the sharing economy could give me. Like when I went somewhere, misalnya when I go somewhere, I didn't check in into hotels, I check in into Airbnb.
Yeah.
Then every time I went back to the US, misalnya, I didn't rent a car anymore, atau borrow my sister's car, tapi lebih I ride Uber. Right? Dan itu jauh lebih ini gak sih itu? Lebih modern gak sih? dan cost effective too.
Yeah.
Dan jauh lebih it's so much apa tuh istilahnya, easiness that comes with technology. Dan sekarang if technology can provide you with access to wealth, that would be a different thing. Yeah. Dan in crypto ya perputarannya itu berapa? It's like 6-7 trillion US dollars hari ini. And that's amazing. I mean itu sejak 2020 loh gitu.
Yeah.
Ya kan? Of course ada cycle. Dan of course ada scam itu pasti gitu kan.
Yeah.
Namanya juga cycle gitu kan. Dan pasti hampir semuanya scam gitu. I'm saying it right here. Hampir semuanya scam. But then again you should look beyond dari just tadi get rich quick scheme, tapi more into what kind of project that this particular crypto ini offer. Dan kalau nggak ngerti jangan lah gitu. Tapi even meme it also provide you not with necessary technology tapi lebih ke community, right? It's a community base yang kuat banget gitu. And I'm pretty sure I did 1 or 2 memes yang community kuat banget gitu. Dan again ingetin lagi, kebetulan my second major is anthropology, so when I did research on the community of particular memes, itu menarik sih ternyata ada cerita yang dark gitu di bawahnya gitu kan.
Kenapa tuh? Boleh diceritain nggak?
Ada yang dark lah, kayak so I guess most of the memes are counterculture, right? Counterculture memes yang apa tuh? Yang I don't know if I should say anything here in this podcast, tapi so the counterculture is now more tend into toward the left hari ini. Jadi banyak tuh yang anak-anak kanan itu yang bilang ini yang woke ini kita lawan pakai memes gitu kan. And this meme grew stronger, right? Banyak yang percaya gitu. Dan to show this establishment yang hari ini lebih woke gitu ya. This meme come like kuat banget gitu untuk represent their generations, their ideas, their philosophy of life gitu kan. So I guess it was very interesting to see ternyata beyond dari technology, the space of crypto, the space of Web3 can be used into like seperti ini gitu. If you remember Obama's campaign, itu kan menggunakan banget Twitter, menggunakan banget yang namanya Web2 lah gitu kan. I guess the next election, yang bukan Kamala, bukan inilah, yang mudah-mudahan nanti, I bet the idea of election nanti will be tokenized somewhat. Dan udah ada kan, kayak Trump kalau nggak salah udah mulai dengan fundraising melalui token gitu kan.
Yes.
I think we are only seeing the surface of it, right? Nanti in the next 4 years from today, this token will be, since kita tadi bicara memes ya, I think this token will be something yang represent ideas, right? Ideals, right? So I guess I think Web3 is coming lah. Web3 is coming.
It's coming up.
It's coming hard. Parah pasti nantinya, ya kan? Dunia berubah lah pasti. But I guess one of the entry point juga sekali lagi, it will be the collapse of Web2. In order Web3 to rise, Web2 has to die.
When do you think that will happen?
Soon.
Elaborate soon.
Soon. Next 3, 4, 5 years maybe.
Wow, itu bentar loh.
Bentar lah, sebentar. Karena teknologi by nature, they have to be replaced, right?
Yeah.
They have to be replaced. Old ideas harus di replace dengan new ideas. Dan I'm the kind of guy yang kind of waiting for an era to end and a new begin, right?
Tapi support juga gak untuk era itu end? Atau?
Of course iya, iyalah,
Iya.
harus. Like most of our portfolio hari ini, itu kalau yang nggak move to Web3, jelas-jelas pasti ketinggalan.
Wow.
Yeah. So we have one company yang sekarang mungkin involved in the CBDC di Singapura gitu.
Yeah.
Dan since most of our ini adalah fintech, ya kan. Most of them are engaging in one or two at least projects in the blockchain space, right? Kalau yang enggak pasti ketinggalan lah. Nggak mungkin hari ini tuh agak susah banget gitu untuk apalagi 4 tahun lagi gitu ya. So either you embrace it now atau at least experimented with it, or got left out by time.
Wow. Berarti specifically untuk investment portfolio yang lo manage sekarang itu mereka not necessarily a Web3 project tapi
They becoming Web3.
They're becoming Web3. Jadi one way or another mereka memang di-mandate nih atau dianjurkan harus explore teknologi blockchain gitu ya.
Enggak, memang mereka visionary aja juga.
Okay.
Gitu. I don't think we can mandate them anything, right? Kalau kita mandate them anything seperti yang what do you know about this space, right? And my answer to you was like to them was like probably in podcast level knowledge, my understanding to it, ya kan. Tapi mereka visionary, so every time we invest in a company, obviously we invest in the people yang kind of bisa tahu gitu kapan era ini berakhir dan kapan era yang baru mulai gitu. Dan if you invest in startup, like I invest in startup right for 15 years, nggak mungkin yang kita invest itu company-nya gitu. Company kayak gini lah misalnya ride hailing itu kan sekarang jadi fintech company, right? Atau embedded finance company katanya, ya kan? Kita lihat the biggest ride hailing di ASEAN itu becoming a financial group, one of the biggest financial group in ASEAN. Jadi kita lihat juga sih the nature of startup company, they have to evolve, they have to catch up with the rest. Kalau nggak Google hari ini masih search engine, right? I don't know if you remember juga Netflix tuh dulu bukan streaming loh. Netflix, gini saking tuanya ya. I know when Netflix still sending you DVDs.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was living in the Bay Area, so I know Netflix is from Bay Area. Jadi I was like one of the first users of Netflix. Jadi Netflix tuh ngirimin DVD pakai amplop, ya kan. Jadi kita pilih itu filmnya apa aja. Kalau kita mau dikirimin 3, subscriptionnya beda dengan 5, dengan 10 dan sebagainya. So if you wanna rent another one, you have to return
the DVD.
1 kalau mau dapat 1, but you can like keep it for the longest time tapi nggak datang lagi gitu kan. So I think they did that for quite some time, dan even they are doing that, they are replacing the business modelnya Blockbuster Videos. Yang the reason why I sign up with Netflix because my late fees di Blockbuster Video itu udah like hundreds of dollars kan. Jadi setiap kali sewa DVD gitu cuma maybe like $5, tapi my denda tuh like 500 gitu.
Karena telat mulu ya.
Telat terus kan. So akhirnya I destroy the DVD, like buang aja kan sekalian, nggak perlu balikin lagi. So I sign up with Netflix saat itu kan. I sign up with Netflix dan although the technology was still like perhaps Amazon like, right? Masih yang which movies you wanna watch, terus bla bla bla. Dia ngirim gituan dan balikinnya juga gampang banget. Kita cuma masukin dalam amplop yang disediakan oleh dia, masukin ke dalam pos. Pos surat di depan apartemen atau apa gitu. Udah ada stamp di sana. So I think it's very interesting model. Jadi kalau kita bicara startup tuh bicara business model. That's the point that I wanna clarify by the way. So when this business model itu udah outdated atau let's say hilang momentumnya lah, because startup is all about building momentum.
Yeah.
Misalnya momentumnya P2P loan misalnya itu udah mulai reda, ya you have to evolve into something. You have to become something else, right?
Yeah.
Maybe still in the P2P space tapi lebih ngelakuin maybe not fiat loan tapi yang lain gitu kan. So yeah, I guess we are actually seeing it already since maybe late last year. We are seeing some folks, some guys yang di tempat gue tuh udah mulai kayak diskusiin ginian gitu, dan they came to the office dan actually sama-sama nggak tahu sih gitu kan.
Sama-sama mau belajar gitu ya.
Ngobrol kan
biar
kayak
gak ketinggalan.
Iya nggak ketinggalan gitu. So they ask me seperti, what do you think about this space? I don't know. Like I can guess, you know what's gonna happen in this space. Tapi I'm not sure myself, right? Jadi I think tadi balik lagi kepada excitement ya waktu Web 2. No one knows kan hari itu mau jadi apa sih. Orang pikir cuma ngobrol-ngobrol di Twitter, ya kan? Atau sharing photos di Facebook. But it became something else, you know. Hari ini juga sama sih. Maybe you experience, investing in crypto, but yang namanya movement sebuah teknologi, I don't think you will be investing in crypto aja gitu for the next 10 years. You will be doing some projects in it, right?
Yes.
Harusnya.
Exactly. Karena yang paling gampang itu kalau misalnya ya blockchain ya, orang dengarnya lebih ke kripto. Oh gue dapat duit dari kripto, mungkin meme coin, invest sana sini. Tapi kan sebenarnya apa yang gue believe itu juga lebih ke infrastructure ya, lebih ke teknologi, sama aja kayak AI. Mungkin AI orang taunya kayak ChatGPT atau chatbot doang gitu ya. Tapi kan sebenarnya implementasinya bisa di across banyak industri gitu sih sebenarnya. That's how I see it juga gitu. And
True.
Yeah. What do you think of blockchain and AI in the mix though?
Ooh.
Di startup juga.
I actually think I actually was like pernah mikirin ginian sih in my dreams pernah. Kalau what if this AI robot of yours gitu ya, not connected to anything but to you only, right? And you hold the access to it. But then again, it will require a quantum computing harusnya yang bisa melakukan itu. That you set up the data on premise, that it's yours gitu ya. I don't know, something like that kali mungkin yang nggak terkonek ke this evil corporations. Gitu. But I guess that also a very interesting topic to explore. In a probably in a more realistic way.
Bukan
than just a
robot
killer
ya.
robot kan ya kan, atau killer software atau killer apa juga. But we are pretty close to quantum computing yang gue denger gitu ya. Kemarin kalau nggak salah ada dari Google kalau nggak salah, forgot the name, juga udah deket banget. So I guess the revolution of hardware is coming also.
Yes.
I think it will go along with tadi self custody, sovereign ownership, decentralizations gitu. Everything will be connected, I guess in the form of an upgrade of hardware nantinya ke depan.
Okay.
Positronic brain maybe, otak sendiri gitu kan nantinya, who knows.
Ya, exciting times ya.
Exciting times to be alive, trust me.
Bener-bener.
The war is coming too. Hey, don't forget the war is coming too.
I know.
Yeah,
So it's like a
war is coming too. Ya, banyak lah. Exciting times.
Tapi kalau lo sendiri nih, nggak usah ngomongin tentang startup, nggak usah ngomongin tentang investing in projects. Kalau lo sendiri, what are the first early mungkin coins that you invest in?
Oh, Bitcoin lah jelas.
Bitcoin ya?
Jelas lah. I'm traditional that way. Very traditional.
Hanya
that
Bitcoin?
Way. Awalnya hanya Bitcoin pertama kali 2020 kan. Kan when you're home dan apalah gitu. Of course you try out some of the ini dan I regret it, nggak pernah early aja gitu. Ya kan? Dan I think that I'm not sure kenapa thesis itu beneran gitu ya, that 21 million coins itu limited gitu kan. Padahal kan nggak ada artinya juga sebenarnya ya. Mau 21, mau 25, mau 20 apa gitu. Tapi that scarcity katanya dan always gini, Bitcoin itu selalu melawan establishment, right? Establishment kan bisa printing more money, bla bla bla. Tapi satu hal yang mungkin perlu dengerin juga, although the US dollars itu keep printing money, but they are powerful nation, right? I don't think they will be like gone anytime soon. Bitcoin will never replace US dollar, for sure. Gak mungkin. Kalau misalnya ada negara besar ya, El Salvador negara kecil kali mungkin, tapi kalau ada negara besar gitu yang kind of bilang misalnya Cina atau misalnya Rusia, kita mau trading pakai Bitcoin, itu pasti dihancurin sih.
Oke.
Iyalah, langsung destroyernya Amerika tuh, carriernya perang itu datang dekat pantainya udah selesai, ya kan? And not many people know this too. The American apa? The US dollar tuh back, maybe bukan dari gold dan yang lain-lain, but they are back with war bonds. Kalau lu Google sekarang ya, itu utangnya Inggris ke Amerika waktu Perang Dunia Kedua itu baru selesai 2007 loh. Since 1945 bayangin. So ini war bonds mereka tuh kuat banget berarti kan. Dan imagine how many countries at wars lah itu. Jadi ya bukan gold sih, bukan oil sih, tapi ada ini loh gitu. Ada world conflict yang kind of mereka tuh thrive dari sana gitu.
So if Bitcoin won't replace US dollar, what do you think will replace? CBDC?
Nah, I don't think the CBDC iya sih, there's always like left and right?
Yeah.
The CBDC pasti dalam bentuk pasti akan terjadi gitu ya, meskipun Trump was so against it. It's just a matter of time sampai I don't think we will ever see cash money again. Itu definitely, ya kan? Nggak akan ada. But I think many governments in the world mereka coba try to emulate Bitcoin, right? Try to emulate Bitcoin untuk their own sakes, right? Ya kan? Dan the crypto works, the crypto space. The CBDC will work too in the end.
Do you think kalau menurut lo CBDC tapi versi Indonesia nih?
We just follow. Deket lah. Ya, kita tinggal tunggu ya US dollar itu punya CBDC dan kita semua negara pasti follow. Pasti disuruh kok biasanya.
Oke.
Pasti. Because again, the market follow money. Any governments follow strong governments gitu ya. Yang sebenarnya yang kita sekarang lagi masalah adalah dan dunia lagi masalah adalah is America will be like the dominant power di dunia kan. Yang jadi masalah kan sekarang ada contestants yang banyak banget nih. Sorry nggak banyak, cuma Cina lah sebenarnya. Iya. Lagi emerging kan, emerging wanna take the dominant power. Dan itu selalu the nature of apa tuh istilahnya nomor 2 sama nomor 1 gitu kan. Dan Amerika pasti akan berusaha terus untuk neken Cina akan terus neken Amerika gitu kan. Until we all back to Stone Age, right? Itu baru selesai gitu kan, udah selesai semua.
Cuman 2 negara itu ya, head to head ya. Indonesia hanya follow aja nih berarti.
Iya. Ada yang bilang kan, kalau misalnya dunia ini perang terus apa tuh USD masih laku apa enggak? Bitcoin pasti hilang sih, di wipe out sama EMP, right? Selesai, hilang semua tuh coin. Whatever it is.
Padahal masih hold Bitcoin.
masih hold lagi ya kan. Semuanya hilang juga anyway gitu. So basically if the world coming to an end, I guess kita kembali lagi transaksi di kerang, pakai kerang nih bro.
Pakai kerang ya.
Pakai kerang.
Oke, mungkin terakhir ya. Banyak banget nih kayaknya kita ngomongin war bonds.
Mungkin perlu diedit kali ini ginian buset. Things that I should not say.
Gak apa-apa, semuanya transparan. Free speech ya.
Free speech.
Mungkin terakhir ceritain dong atau mungkin boleh kasih tahu tips-tips atau last words long term vision untuk startup ekosistem di Indonesia. Nggak cuman startup ekosistem yang sekarang, tapi in the future mungkin yang tadi lo bilang udah mulai ke Web3 atau mulai touching on RWA segala macam ya.
So I wrote a book basically. I wrote a book called Chasing Unicorns. Sekarang udah cetakan ketiga by the way. Thank you guys. With little promotions, blah blah blah. Anyway, so it was not a serious book, right? But it's more like a curhat book. I was very disappointed with with this with everything that's been going on. Karena waktu kita tuh mulai 2010, kita tuh masih mikirin kayak along the way when we finish one cycle of this startup kemajuan ini, dan Indonesia itu di depan hari itu ya, itu mestinya kita punya kayak Nasdaq-nya di sini di Indonesia, punya liquidity lah. Setelah 10 tahun akhirnya these companies itu ini kan jadi Amazon lah gitu, jadi Amazon of Indonesia, jadi the Magnificent Seven of Indonesia kayak gitu ya. But ternyata enggak, dan ternyata malah enggak banyak juga gitu. All the companies that I thought was ready, dan kita pikir ready for it, juga nggak jadi going public. Dan kalau kita lihat di US itu, ekonomi US tuh percaya apa nggak dibangun sama yang namanya Magnificent Seven, Nvidia, Google, Netflix, bla bla bla, Amazon, dan Taylor Swift, right? Kita di Indonesia itu tuh we have two tech giants, right? Yang udah itu belum gitu, malah masih buat tech companies yang lain tuh nggak mau ke sana gitu kan. Dan my heart just broken di sana ya kan, kayak langsung sedih gitu loh. Ya gak? Kayak udah 10 tahun, udah lebih dari 10 tahun kali. I'm doing this like 15 years. I was waiting for that day to happen, ketika bull 2021 gitu kan. Only to find out that the world is coming to an end, especially yang the world of finance kan ambruk semua tuh. Mulai nggak cuma di Indonesia ya, tapi kita lihat Airbnb, kita lihat Uber, kita lihat yang lain di Nasdaq pun juga tumbang. So I guess kita coming off into yang namanya wrong timing banget sih untuk kita, istilahnya itu the first cycle selesai, preparing for the second cycle, and our market is ready for it. Ternyata enggak gitu ya. Dan I guess there is something yang I thought still need a lot of attention untuk dibenerin gitu kan. Dan benerin itu juga nggak gampang sih katanya sih, karena who really wanna like invest in the tech stocks today? Nggak ada lah di Indonesia. Jadi ini harus ini harus ada some optimism. So I guess when that day happened, so I decided to write a book, right? To write about my feelings toward it, and then I put a lot of jokes like insider stories juga, tapi I didn't put names in it. So I was like having a laugh, right? But in the end, I was like laughing at myself, right? Oh, this is me. So I guess I don't know, the next 10 years, I guess the new narrative itu mesti follow. I don't think we can use the old narratives anymore. And the new narrative, I hope gitu ya, is Web3 gitu. Kalau enggak sih ya udahlah gitu.
Kalau enggak apa tuh?
I give up. I give up.
Skip aja ke Web 4 ya, Web 5.
Web 4 tuh udah super computer gitu kan ya kan, udah gitu-gituan. Udahlah, nggak mungkin lah. Jadi so I still I'm still hopeful sekarang, berarti I'm still romantic, right, in this area. So I hope in the next 10 years all these new startups, all these new companies can really fulfill our destiny.
Are you preparing them for that revolution?
Yes, I'm always on the side of the revolution, ya. Senang sih. Jadi gini, ada apa ya? In my line of work, I don't know if anyone in my line of work also feel this way. Tapi lebih ke I really wanna do something yang kind of impactful, quote unquote impactful. Selama masih bisa, kenapa enggak gitu kan? So I'm going to promote them always. So I'm a big fan of startups, bukan investor aja ya. But I'm a big fan of this founder, that founder. Bahkan I'm a big fan of D3 right now. Obviously, sampai mereka salah pasti saya tuh enggak gitu. So that's why setiap kali startup yang I promote gitu ya, because I was such a big fan of them. Ketika mereka kind of doing disappointing things, biasanya sih gue langsung kayak kecewa banget sih, kayak putus pacaran gitu loh, nggak mau ngomong lagi gitu kan ya kan. I don't know if you heard the stories, but I have a lot of stories yang kind of related to that. I don't talk to this founder anymore. I don't talk to this founder. So it becomes really personal to me.
Yeah.
Right?
That's where you you can, decide on the best investment is when
Yeah, because I put
you're
my feelings.
invested. Yeah.
Put my feelings in it, right?
Yeah.
Put my feelings.
Okay. Thank
Seru
you
ya.
so much, Nico.
Thank you, Teresa.
Yes, I think it's been such a good conversation.
Thank you.
Oke, thank you teman-teman.